I think because we have undercounted ourselves and underestimated ourselves, we've quite forgotten that we were never a minority. As 1 billion African people on the face of the earth, we can create industries overnight if we decided that we don't wear no underwear we don't make. We don't eat no food that don't come from one of our farms. We don't sleep on no mattress that we don't make. We don't bury our loved ones in any coffins we don't make. We take the coffin industry away from the mafia. We've forgotten our great potential as a people.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good everything. Thank you. This is Brian HRap B. Williams. This is End of the Bench Media. This is a few minutes with HRap, where I attempt to uplift you, give you information that can be valuable to your wealth and mental health. Thank you. It is time to, we're living for the weekend, right? So with that being said, I want to thank my parents. Without my parents, that would not be me, Dolores and John. Without Dolores and John, there would be no me and you. We're doing something else with your valuable time. You already know what I'm going to ask you to do. If you're not watching this live, go to www.endofthebench.com. Thank you. Thank you, each and every one of my subscribers, for doing it. You guys, as I said yesterday, I'm up 63% from last month. It is a blessing. I'm loving it. I'm touched. Now, with that being said, let's get this on, because, I'm coming back on tonight with a program called The Chief Seats. I want you to do that. It'll be here. If you're subscribed, you'll get it. You might even get a notification from me. Thank you, everyone. With that being said, DEI. DEI is the name of the game. DEI is the name of the game. But today, self-hate for profit. Self-hate for profit. Well, I have redetermined the acronym DEI for dissing everyone, including yourself. Dissing everyone, including everyone in your community, including yourself. Because what we do, what we see in front of us, is a group of people who have figured out, politicians, athletes, entertainers, they do whatever they have to do for money. And they want to be, and see, I'm trying to help the community. I'm keeping it real. I'm telling the truth. It's ironic that the people who cross the Black community the most use colloquialisms and slang and things from the culture to embrace and ingratiate themselves to the culture. And once they get to a certain level and they hit that proverbial glass ceiling, and at that point they start telling the truth. I'm just telling the truth. See, I'm just being honest. If you're just being honest, that's one way. Look, I am a firm believer in self-policing. If I mess up, if I say something wrong, come in the comments, email me at theendofthebench.com, theendofthebench@gmail.com. Reach out to me on social media, say something in the chat room, do whatever you have to do, whatever makes you feel like, hey man, you know what, I need to say this. I don't have no problem with that. But what you're not gonna do is you're gonna use half-truths, which are whole lies, to denigrate our community. That's what you're not gonna do. See, the thing is, to be policed by someone in the community only means you care. If I sit here and tell a bold-faced lie, you need to call me out. Point blank, period, end of story. But what we find ourselves doing is the next level. What is the next level? See, I'm trying to be the best I can be. See, what I'm doing is what you have to do. No, you don't really have to do anything. And in regards to me or anyone on these platforms making mistakes, I personally feel there's a protocol to addressing that. Now, if I blatantly lie, call me out. If I make a mistake, reach out to me behind the scenes, say, yo, Rap, you were wrong on this. And guess what? I'm going to come on here and say, my man XYZ, good sister XYZ said this. I looked into it. I was wrong. I want y'all to understand blah, 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 this, that, and the third. That's how you conduct yourself in this medium. A lot of people don't do that, though. They make these broad sweeping predictions, and then they never come back and say, hey, man, I was wrong. But I thought that was it, but I was wrong. and that's how you conduct yourself. But what we're not going to do is tell a piece of the story and then understand that it's an entire backstory to it, and we're gonna present ourselves as fair, equal, and a person who's level-headed. No, you're not level-headed. What you are is self-hating. Self-hate isn't something new, though, brothers and sisters. Self-hate has been around since our enslavement. It was probably going on the continent. As a matter of fact, if you're a spiritual person or a religious person, when you open up the book of the Bible, the beginning of the book tells you about how one brother hated himself for not following the instructions and killed the other. So self-hate and denigration and reduction of value of another individual has been around for time immemorial. But today is something different. When you see the four people on my thumbnail, Candace Owens, Emmanuel Acho, Fatlock, Jason Fatlock, Jason Whitlock, and the latest member on the coon train is Robert Griffin III. And you know what? I always said I would never call a brother a coon on this platform, but I just did it, and I made the mistake, and I'm self-correcting. I'm not gonna call him a coon. I'm gonna call him a buffoon or a clown, because that's what he is. He's a buffoon because he's not using his own personality, his own celebrity to get to a level. What he did was say, hey, you know what? That's the highest level over there. And I keep telling y'all, the only reason ESPN is identified as the worldwide leader in sports, or Fox is the big time Fox network, is because they said it. Where was the poll at that said ESPN is the worldwide leader? Who's number two? If you're the biggest, that does not mean you're the worldwide leader. That just means you're the biggest. You got the most money. Disney, ABC, ESPN is a prior to that. All the connections with Hulu and things of that nature. That's a big engine. But what we have to figure out is what we have to decide is this. You're gonna rise to a specific level. If you're putting out quality, you will continue to rise. I've mentioned this on several occasions, how Rule Foster and the Negro League All-Stars were starting to attract other people from other cultures. That's why our ancestor, Jack Roosevelt Robinson, newsflash, my man hated to be called Jackie. That wasn't his name. That's another reason I don't like Roberto Clemente, because he used to tell him Roberto, not Bobby. See, when you understand where you are in this world, how you fit into this world, no one can attack you. This is why the people like Coach Prime, respect, the late great Muhammad Ali, respect, and others who what's his name, Sugar Ray Robinson, and anybody who is bombastic in this community, they're always looked down upon as long as they are not making money. The moment that money starts drying up, and then they'll do everything they can to destroy that person. Muhammad Ali, they took a lot of money from him because they didn't realize the cash cow that he was. And then Coach Prime, they're doing it to his children right now. They're taking shots at the cuss. This dude said he was going to do something, just like the late, great Muhammad Ali said it, experienced it, did it, and exceeded it. As a matter of fact, when you look at people like Prime, Coach Prime, and the late, great Muhammad Ali, they undersold and over-delivered. They told you they were the greatest, but they still were better than what they advertised. So what we have is people who can't over-deliver. So what they do is denigrate and tear down. The DEI, disrespect everyone, including yourself. That's what that is in this community. That's what you do. And it is big time money in it. Byron Donald, Tim Scott, other politicians, the dude who was running for governor for South Carolina or North Carolina, I can't remember which one it was. They caught him pretending to be a white supremacist. You have even people from other communities, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley. They will because it's money in white supremacy. And white supremacists will pay you to diss other people, because we live in, to quote the great Chuck D, we live in a world of screenagers. Not teenagers, screenagers. This entire lexicon of the world is being controlled by their screen. Now, that's what gets us to self-hate. In order to disrespect someone from your culture or any culture, you can't like yourself. You cannot like who is in that mirror. Self-hate is inculcated into our community it was beat into us for centuries because it was a survival tactic. I have to reduce the value of my son, as they will take my son. I will reduce the value of my daughter, or they'll take my daughter. I have to act less than, so an inferior being will feel superior. It is in you, because if you do something, just like abuse, alcoholism, any substance abuse, physical abuse, mental anguish, it's embedded in it's part of your DNA structure. And if you don't address it, it will destroy you. And people like Donald, people like Whitlock, people like Emmanuel Archo, I'm just giving my opinion. Nah, see, opinions must be stoked in fact. See, it's easy to say, this is what's wrong with this community. You are not a part of that community, nor have you spent time in that community. And even if you haven't experienced what that person experienced. It's a thing that actually I got it from Charlemagne the God. Well, he was the first person I heard use it publicly. Survival mode. Don't tell me what you should do or what I should do in a horrible situation, because you lived through a horrible situation, others may not. Look, case in point, the great Malcolm X, he was put in a horrible situation. White nationalists, white supremacists, haters of black people killed his father. That system that's run by haters of black people incarcerated his mother and put her in a mental institution, and that left him on his own in foster care and under the care of white nationalists, white supremacists, and they attempted to beat him down. He left that situation and went to his sister Ella from his dad's first marriage, and she helped continue to develop him. And again, as I've mentioned before, just like the Bible say, raise a child right, and even when he goes astray, he'll come back to the right path. Malcolm X is proof positive of that. But we don't know what we would do. Some of us wouldn't even live to be 20 years old to go to jail, to have the rebirth that Malcolm X had. But that self-hate allowed him to sell drugs, to participate in pandering, to rob people, to do all kinds of nefarious activities because it was for profit. And self-hate is the reason we chase the bag. What is this fictional bag that you're chasing? Because it's never going to be enough. And I'm not, I'm a human being. I'm a man that says, I want as much money as they can put in the bank. And if that bank get full, I want another bank. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you don't need money. But what I'm saying is you don't need to sell your soul for said money. See, it's only so much money that you can leave your children, that you can spend and you can hang out with. But guess what? Most of the things that you want have nothing to do with how much money you have. You want peace. You want joy. Most of us want a significant other. Most of us want to go see new things and try new things and have nice things. You don't need $1 billion to do that. Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, even he rails on about this. No one needs to be a trillionaire. No one needs to be a billionaire. And he's not saying that you need to give your money back, but don't talk to me about how great you are and you've never helped anybody. And I don't mean help someone with your hand out. Don't help somebody like this. Don't have your hand out and then handing them something with your hand out. No, hand it to them and walk away, because then you have them do it. And then it's a cyclical thing. That's something like nature. Look, the orange, the apple, the pear does not have seeds inside of it, so you can go plant it. But you will, when you get through with it, you'll plant, you stick it in the ground. Years later, a tree comes and somebody else would do it. Old man, it's a story, it's an adage about an old man planting trees. And people say, man, you're never going to be able to sit in the shade of those trees. He said, yeah, but somebody planted trees before me. That's your mentality. You need to do it. That's why the moniker of this show is, I'm doing things so our great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren will have a better life. I don't need to have the greatest life. I need for me, my lady, my children, my family to be comfortable, and then we're cool. And then they're gonna be living in the lap of luxury, and they're going to be living in pristine conditions. It is going to be like heaven on earth for those great-grandchildren's grandchildren. And that's our mentality. Not because we need to do it, because other people. But when you don't like yourself, you see all the flaws in it. The reason I brought this up is one of the biggest stories this week is Angel Reese, and she was turned into a hate monger. Draymond Green. It's ironic that Angel Reese and Draymond Green are two of the biggest villains in the sports world today. Trump none by our brother LeBron James. Nobody's not a bigger villain in the world than him. LeBron James can't complain to the refs, even though I saw Michael Jordan's entire career sitting here in Chicago, Illinois. I saw him complain against the refs. I've never seen not one superstar not complaining to the ref, but that's neither here nor there. But they are denigrated in regards to what you guys told us y'all wanted. See, the NFL is the NBA is soft. These guys are too friendly. So when Green and Reese mix it up, they're wrong. You can't live on both sides of that fence, but self-hate will allow you to do it. I've had conversations with people that say Angel Reese is not that good of a ball player. Well, okay. But what does that have to do being fouled hard, being upset that you're fouled hard, probably being emotionally frustrated that you're getting your brains beat out, and on top of it, you're going to have to face the media that's going to ask you questions about the same thing that she's been talking about. Oh, she's jealous of her. Wait a minute. Last time I checked, and this is a fact, Angel Reese was the number one person in NIL, meaning I got more money than you. Last time I checked, Angel Reese had a ring on her finger because she's a national champion. I'm a champion, you're not. What is it that she's jealous of again? Because it can't be money and it can't be fame, because you don't get the money in NIL unless you got fame. And I actually have a championship. What am I jealous of? But we frame it this way. And self-hating and self-loathing people, what they do is go out there and put it on the person instead of the system. I was in the midst of it, but the whole country was either bird or magic, white or black. Let's just keep it funky. Now, you have some people like myself who are sports fans who could appreciate both, but most people aren't. It's a negative connotation that's called sheeple, meaning you just go along with the pack. Groupthink, if you will. But all of this goes along with self-hate. I didn't hate Larry Bird. Larry Bird was a bad joker, and I love Magic Johnson. But my favorite player was this, and I can do that. I can separate the 3, the 5, the 10, the 50, the 420. The 1800 in the National Football League and the 900 plus and the MLB. I can separate who I like, who's good, and who's not. But what we need to do is stop hating ourselves and putting these things up on a pedestal that's higher than us. Oh, well, see, if I literally had an intelligent person, a person who I actually respect, we were talking about shopping black. And he said, but sometimes you want good food. I said, oh, black people can't make, oh, no, I ain't mean it like that. Yes, you did. And he really, in that moment, I never corrected him. I never tried to check him. What I did was I said, hey, you know what? This is what it is. This is what it is. Thank you. That's my man, Jungle, but you just saw it on the screen. That's what it is. You realize that he realized in that moment, he bought into the propaganda. And we need to realize that this is a propagandized medium, that if you don't start thinking for yourself, you too will join the hate train. You too will join the hate train. The number one thing in the world today is the bag. You always chasing money. And you know who that's affecting? Your children. It's in our children. Because we equate success. We equate popularity. We equate status to things. How many times? When was the last time somebody said, man, that's my guy, he's smart? It's all about physicality, beauty, and opulence. And we're putting it in our children. So the next time you come out of your mouth and say, see, these kids crazy, ask yourself, when have you ever just taken your children out like my mother used to do? My mother used to just take us out, go to the park. We ain't have to go at the time, it was a big time. It was a big deal. We ain't have to go to Red Lobster. We ain't have to go to the Ponderosa. We ain't have to go to an affluent restaurant. Sometimes my mother would make a bunch of sandwiches and just take us to the park. And we thought, like, ooh, it's the park. It was the park. It was cool. When do you do that with your children? When do you do that with your significant other? When do you do that with your family? When do you call 7 to 10 of your relatives and say, hey, bring as much chicken as you can bring as much green as you can bring as much cornbread as you can bring, and so forth and so on, and then have a dinner, a family dinner? When do you do that? When do you do that? They think that, see, that's what's up. That's what's up. My girl Post says she does that. Psychological welfare, black business, low quality. To what's it say? They had to destroy them exactly in Black Wall Street, Rosewood, Chicago, Illinois. I'm sure some places in South Carolina and North Carolina where you two guys are. Places in New York, Sylvia's in New York. They want to make sure that you believe that what you have is less than, because Ruth Chris steak tastes better and they getting it from the same people. No, they're not. And here's a funny thing. I saw the CEO of Red Lobster, and do you know he says, according to him, I'm not the CEO of Red Lobster. I'm just going to take him in his word. It was a young brother. He said that they have the highest quality seafood in the United States of America because they buy more than anybody. So you think, oh man, I ain't going to Red Lobster. It ain't nothing. But actually, they got better seafood than Ruth Chris and the rest of those places because they buy them more. Because why would you sell to people low quality seafood who gives you the most money? But we've been trained to believe because it's in the hood and it's accessible to working class people, it's less than. And that's just wrong. And that's why our children are so screwed up, because we're not embracing our children and loving them. Like me and as I was raising my children, my children had a lot of opportunities, but it would be some Christmases you getting one thing and you getting one thing, and that's it, because they had things all year. So there was no need to invest in the system so the system could make you want more and more. And I do believe my son a little flashy, I'm not gonna lie, but my daughter is very well rounded. Both my children are very well rounded. Both my children are very philanthropic, because I also embedded in them, if you have something and you don't share it with your sister, I'm taking it, I'm gonna eat it in front of you. Me and your sister gonna eat it in, or me and your brother gonna eat it, and you gonna be mad. So either learn how to share, learn how to uplift, learn how to engage, or suffer consequences. But that's, wow, man, see what these people and those people and this, that, and the third. Nah, we're not doing that anymore. See, this is what breeds that self-hate. This is why Robert Griffin III can go on TV, Jason Whitlock can go on TV, Candace Owens can go on TV, Emmanuel Acho, Tim Scott, the buffoon in Florida, Byron Donald. That's why they can come out there and say a piece of the truth. The black community was better when segregation was in, because get the hell out of here, Byron. That's why you will never be elected to dog catcher. You will never be elected to anything higher than what you are, because you're catering to cultures that don't like you. You're substantiating publicized stereotypes. And when it comes out of one of our mouths, the racist, the biggest, the sectionists, that's what I'm going to call them, the sectionists, because they want you in your section, they want them in their section. They can say, see, this is why the police beat him. This is why that's why he don't want nothing. He ain't working hard, because you are comparing yourself to a standard that nobody else is being held to. That, again, will put it in our children. If you don't agree with me, all I want you to do is check what's the enrollment at Princeton, Harvard, Yale, and other Ivy League schools. 40% are legacy students. 40%. 4 out of 10 people are legacy students. So I don't want to hear about no discrimination, you getting the benefits. Who was going there? Your people. George W. Bush, former president of the United States of America. Excuse me. He was a graduate of Yale. How did he get in Yale as a C student? Because his father went there. So I don't want to hear this nonsense. But see, you have to do, and then we train our children, we train our community, and you have to do twice as much. No, you don't. You could just do the very best you can, and make sure we embed in our children that your best is what you give every day. I don't care if it's a pop quiz, you need to be trying to get 100. And if you don't get 100, you need to be disappointed in yourself. And then you can go to the HBCUs, where most of the black doctors come from. You can go to, you can find out that it's like 450 black, it's 450 black women architects. And it was like 394 last time I checked. they all come from HBCUs. The attorneys come from HBCUs. A lot of our professors come from HBCUs. Some of our greatest thought-provoking people in the history of the world, W.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Martin Luther King Jr., HBCU. So when you are looking at the HBCU model, they're a good marshal, just for throw on in there. That model is extremely successful for us. So if you want your children to continue to hate themselves, you keep playing this game. And, you know, it's Black History time. And this is not Black history per se. This is a great man who's been talking about these issues for this video I'm about to show you. And if you want to watch it in its entirety, it is on www.theendofthebitch.com. He'll get credit. Dr. Claude is one of my favorite humans in the history of the world. He'll get credit for it, but if you go there, you're going to help me too. So I want you to watch this, and I'll be back shortly because y'all know how I do it. Just a second. Let's go.
Police officers were white. They were very disturbed about this. So what they did, they took those two boys on a Friday, and they beat them all day Friday. They beat them all day Saturday. Then by Sunday, they had gotten tired of beating them. They said, well, we just go ahead and kill them. And so one of the officers picked up a rifle, and hit the oldest black kid in the back of the head with a rifle. The kid was only about 22 years of age. Hit him so hard that it knocked one eye completely out of socket and bulged the other eye and broke the rifle stock. And the poor kid fell on his knees and crawled around and found the broken stock of the rifle, and on his knees held it up and apologized for having a hard head. That is inappropriate behavior. The question should have been, why are you brutalizing me and killing me? What have I done to you? And so that's kind of inappropriate behavior. It's what we've been systematically programming to displaying as Black folk in a very highly competitive society. So what I want you all to start thinking about today and all throughout my speech today is not who you're against, but who you're for. I want you to understand that you're in a very highly competitive situation. You're going to be competing to survive and prosper. And that's what racism is all about. Contrary to what anybody tells you, I just saw a definition of racism in the New York, in the Washington Post last week by a noted columnist who's a conservative. And what he was really talking about was prejudice and discrimination. He wasn't talking about racism, but he was mystifying the word. That's why I finally figured out why he's always on the wrong side of an issue relating to Black folk. He thinks that a Black person can be racist.
Okay, with that being said, thank you, Dr. Claude Anderson, one of the greatest human beings in the world, according to HRap. If you want to remember, if you want to watch it in its entirety, the easiest way to go about that is go to www.theendofthebitch.com. The creator of that content will get the credit. It's just on my website for you to see, for you to share, and for you to participate in, and thank you for the support. Do you hear what he's saying? You got people out here getting brutalized, and they blaming themselves for having a hard head. You got people being disrespected, and they're coming up with ways that if you do it this way, you won't be disrespected. Now, crime is a very small portion of life in the United States of America. I don't care what community you're a part of. So why is it that we're a part of crime so much? Why are we so heavily policed? And then you have dumbasses going around repeating and regurgitating false information, and then it get attached to us. It gets attached to us. But it's time to hit the reset button. We can no longer buy into a system that says we are less than, we are not human, we are not, we can't, anything that's negative. See, when you hit the reset button, then you will reinstitute that pride. You will educate your children about the greatness of our community. I keep telling you, between 1863 and 1776, that has nothing to do with us. Well, 1619, excuse me. That has nothing to do with us. We're not going to let that time period because we've gotten to the point that we'll even call ourselves descendants of slaves. My great-grandfather and great-grandmother were not slaves. You are out your damn mind. They were two human beings forced into a death camp type of situation. And what they did what they had to do to survive. That's what it was. That's what we have to do. That's what they had to do. They were forced to work for free so they could survive this criminal enterprise called the United States of America. That's what they wanted to do. Now, if you want to talk about how great we are, you can bring up inventions. You can bring up scholars. You can bring up people who put in engineers. You can put up anything that's positive. The Fannie Lou Hamers, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the Malcolm X's, your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, your father, your mother, your cousins, your aunts. That's what you need to be talking about, because they're all Black history. It's a rich guy in your neighborhood that bought up a lot of property and lived comfortably for all his days. That's Black history. Fighting against some hate-mongering jackass is not history. It's part of what happened. It's part of the story. But we don't have to focus on getting beaten, overcome all the time. Dr. Claude Anderson family used to own the largest Black-owned bus company in South Carolina. Did you know that? That's what we need to be talking about. We're not going to gauge what we are about what we wear, what we own, and how we look. Nah, we're not doing that anymore. How much did you contribute to the betterment of the community? How much did you improve life for your great-grandchildren's grandchildren? That's how we're gonna judge each other going forward. We can no longer see that way. When you have the Robert Griffin III's, the Candace Owens, the Jason Whitlocks, and Emmanuel Archo just telling the truth, and you can throw Stephen A. Smith in there if you like, just telling the truth. See, I'm just being honest. Well, you know what? In order to be honest and tell a story, you must have that person's side, you must have the person, the accuser's side, and you must have all the details, and the truth will be found somewhere in the middle. Sometimes we're going to end up on, as my mother used to say, on the ish end of the stick. Sometimes that's where we're going to end up. We're going to end up on the short end of the stick because we're going to make mistakes. But guess what? More times than not, we won't. See, just because you're successful does not mean I'm going to be successful. Because guess what? You're good at what you're good at. I'm good at podcasts. If somebody sit here and sometimes I stutter, they'll sound like me when I stutter. That don't mean that they're not intelligent. They don't mean that they don't have talent. That just means podcasting may not be their bag. But guess what? They might have another quality. They may have another talent. They may have something else. As I keep telling y'all, God doesn't make any blanks. If you're a functional human being, you're good at something. So I'm a horrible speller, but I'm excellent in math. I love history. I don't feel like reading nothing about Shakespeare and those clowns, and that means nothing to me. So you can Shakespeare me to death, and I am totally ignorant to it. But I can talk to you about history until the cows come home. See, everybody's good at something. Or some of us are generals, and not in a military sense. With general, we know a little bit about everything. That's what a general is. I know a little bit about everything. I'm not an expert at anything. In general, I'm a well-rounded person. That's what a general is. But some of us are majors. I majored in math. I majored in history. I majored in science. I majored in computer science. I majored in warfare. I majored in comedy. I majored in entertainment. I am a major. That's what it is. We don't have to be experts at everything, but what we have to do is be good at what we're good at. And like I said yesterday, the competition to the great super MC Rakim, competition is none. I remain at the top like the sun. And that does not mean I'm competing against any of my brothers and sisters who podcast. I'm not competing against Nori. I'm not competing against Cam. I'm not competing against Shannon and anybody else. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put forth the best possible product I can. I'm going to put everything that my finances at this point can make me have, and then I'm going to continue to elevate, much like I've done in 2025. First 2 years, 500 subscribers. Last 5 months, 550 subscribers, because I said I made my mind up. I said, you know what? You're better than this. And a lot of people say, man, your stuff is good, but I can do better. And I don't care how good you are, you can do better. I'm not, hey, guess who I'm competing with? I'm competing with NBC, ABC, CBS, TNT, WGN, and anybody else is out there. But I'm not competing against my brothers and sisters. Now, I will push my brothers and sisters. I want my brothers and sisters to see me and go, rap got it. I got to step up my game. My man, Big Mo, who's going to be on the program with me tonight, that's exactly what he did. He came up with a program called Tiger Paw. I listened to it one time. I said, I ain't doing this good enough. And I stepped my game up. So with that being said, don't hate yourself and don't hate anything, because that's a waste of time emotion. Hate is an utter waste of time. What you do is you realize, be self-aware and say, you know what, I can do better and do better. When you see somebody struggling, you lift them up, because to wave your finger at them that's a waste of energy. Because the same energy it takes to do this, you can apply that same energy to uplift somebody. With that being said, y'all know it's the end of the show, and I'm about to take me a nap. I work overnight, and y'all already know, disrespecting my people is not going to be accepted by nobody, even if you're a part of the community. I just want you to understand.
I don't think so. Homie, don't play that.
Homie, don't play that. And if you really think you can disrespect our people and get away with it, I'm just going to be forced to tell you.
Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down.
Every time you try, that's going to be a response. Sit your ass down. With that being said, the funny is over. Thank y'all for tapping in. Hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend to tap in. Subscribe. And as I end the show, I'm going to end it just like with my man, Reggie O'Shea. Dream your dreams and man up and woman up and live your dreams, because life with dreams flows in black and white. Life without dreams flows in Technicolor surround sound. Love yourself, and that way you can love everybody. If you love yourself, you can't love nobody. If you don't love yourself, you are nobody. With that being said, 2 fingers, 1 word, and I.
And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way. This is why